Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Just a Reading Mama, and today I wanted to share my top 10 favorite books from 2025. You can definitely hear my kids in the background, just ignore them. I didn't want to try and turn on a video or anything for them, so I'm just letting them play and be loud. 2025 was a really good reading year for me. I had a baby near the beginning of the year, and so I spent a lot of time nap trapped or nursing or up in the middle of the night reading, and so I got a lot of books in. I also shared a lot of books with my kids, and I found some really great favorites that will probably be my favorites forever. So it was really hard to narrow down to just 10. In order to help myself narrow down every year, I try and kind of give each book a category and pick a book for that category. So the first category is my favorite new release. For this category, I picked Vera Wong's Guide for Snooping on a Dead Man by Jesse Q. Sutanto. This is actually the sequel to Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murders, which I read in 2024. Love them both. Vera Wong, I don't think I'd want to be friends with her in real life, although I wouldn't mind the food that she makes, but I just love her character. I absolutely love her character. I could read her all day. I hope that Jesse Q. Sutanto writes more Vera Wong books because they're my favorite. I read a couple other books by her, and Vera Wong's just my favorite. My second category is a favorite book that surprised me by how much I liked it. For this one, I picked The Key to My Heart by Leah Lewis. I'd never read anything by Leah Lewis before, but I really liked her. She felt kind of like Sophie Kinsella, that type of style, but more serious, not quite as quirky or funny. It's a contemporary romance. The main character is grieving for her husband who passed away a few years ago, and she feels like she should be able to move on now, but she's really struggling to. She plays the piano at this train station, and music starts just appearing there, but the sheet music is like the song that they dance to at their wedding, or her husband's favorite song and things like that. So the music feels like it's appearing there for her. And so there's kind of this mystery, there's a little bit of a love triangle, there's all of the grief that she's dealing with, and her friends that she has this dynamic with her friends because of the grief that's different now. And I absolutely love the book. I bawled. I did not know that I was going to like the book as much as I did, but I just loved it. My third category is my favorite nonfiction. I do try and read quite a bit of nonfiction. A lot of the nonfiction I read is self-help books, but I also love memoirs, biographies. I've read some history books, although those are a little bit harder for me. One of my goals in 2025 was to prioritize reading nonfiction at least one a month, and I did a really good job with that, and so I had quite a few to pick from. My favorite ended up being one that I wasn't planning on reading and wasn't even on my radar, that my husband found online, and it was called Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. And this Lundy Bancroft is a therapist for abusers who abuse their spouses or family, and he tries to help them to learn to not be abusers. And he wrote this book actually for the abused woman, though, basically to try and help them to understand why the abuser would act the way he does, what steps would be the best for them, things like that. And he is really knowledgeable, so good. The book is amazing, and it's the type of book that I am going to have all of my girls read it when they're a little bit older. They're a little young right now, but when they're ready to start dating more seriously, I want them to read it before they start dating, because I feel like it can help them to understand what to look for in relationships to avoid these types of relationships. And I just think it's really good. It's a really good book. So if you know anybody who needs help with that type of situation, or if you're looking, if you're even just wondering if you're in that type of relationship, this would be an amazing book to read to help to just understand more. If I had to pick a runner-up though, I would pick Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He's a negotiator with the FBI, and the book is just amazing, and I actually might reread it this year. My fourth category is my favorite spontaneous read, and for this one I picked The Secret Bridesmaid by Katie Birchall. I absolutely loved this book. I could have actually put it under books that surprised me because I thought that I'd probably enjoy it, but I actually just loved it. It blew me away. It was, first of all, super clean. I want to read more by this author because I really liked her writing, combined with the fact that she was really really clean with it that I think that I would like other books by her. It follows Sophie, who is a professional bridesmaid. So what she does is she will be the bride's bridesmaid and plan the wedding. So she's kind of like a wedding planner, but she's also there for the wedding. She's part of the wedding. She's there just if the bride needs to vent to somebody or needs to call somebody or has worries, or they need a date for one of the groomsmen or whatever. She's kind of the catch-all. She will do it all, and she gets hired by these kind of rich, famous people to pretend to be the real bridesmaid of their daughter for their daughter's wedding, but the daughter doesn't want her there, and so the daughter's doing everything she can to basically make Sophie's life miserable, but Sophie really wants to do it for the for the prestige and just for the money, and it's just a big deal to do it. And then of course the bride's brother is really handsome and everything, and so there's like some romance there, but then she shouldn't have a romance with him because she's lying to him. He doesn't know who she is. She's pretending to be his sister's friend, but she's actually just a stranger. So then there's that whole romance to complicate things too. My fifth category is my favorite Christie read, because I try and read at least one Agatha Christie book a month. I am getting close to finishing all of the Agatha Christie books, and then I'll probably just pick my favorite to reread each month because I look forward to my Christie read every single month. This year I picked Death Comes as the End by Agatha Christie, and it is a little bit different than her typical books because it's a historical mystery instead of just a straight up mystery. So it takes place in ancient Egypt, and the names are kind of like, they're like Egyptian names, so they're a little bit weird, and you have to kind of get into the setting. But then once you get into the book, the actual plot and the characters and everything are so Agatha Christie that I just loved it. I got really sucked into the book, and just when I finished, I was really sad about it. My next category is my favorite book from a series, and for this one I actually picked just the whole series because it was so good, and it is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. The series has gotten a lot of hype this year, and for good reason. I actually haven't read the 8th book yet. My Kindle Unlimited subscription ran out before I could get to it, but I did just get the audiobook on sale, so I'm planning on reading it this month. The characters just make the book. There are characters that you just love, and then there's the characters that you just love to hate, and then it all takes place in this like quirky, fun little town that you wish you could just go and live there because it's just amazing. And she is such a character. She just gets into the funniest, silliest predicaments, and it's just so fun. And then there's like the romance, which isn't even like that heavy on romance yet, but there is romance. Even before there's romance, and I'm Team Islington, just so everybody knows. I'm really excited because it is projected to have a lot of books in the series, and that's always really fun. My next category is favorite recommended book, like my favorite book that somebody recommended to me, and for this one I picked Mother-Daughter Murder Night by Nina Simon. This one was recommended to me by, not to me personally, but I got the recommendation from one of my favorite Bookstagram people, Jansen at Everyday Reading. I'll post her channel down below, her Instagram channel. Mother-Daughter Murder Night was just super fun. I read it in October, which was perfect for like that Halloween type feel. The grandmother gets cancer, and while she's dealing with cancer, she comes and moves home with her daughter, who also has a daughter. So there's the grandmother, and then the mother, and then the daughter. And the relationships between them grow and change throughout the book, and it's really fun to watch that. And then there's like the murder mystery part of it, which draws you along, and the grandmother is literally just a character. She is so fun to read about, and the relationship just grew in a way that was really satisfying, and the whole book just left me happy, and I just couldn't put it down. The next category is a book that made me cry. My top favorite book that made me cry was What Does It Feel Like by Sophie Kinsella, and this is a very short, it's like 3-hour audiobook that is autobiographical for Sophie Kinsella because it follows an author, a famous author, who wakes up in the hospital with no memory of how she got there. She finds out that she had brain cancer and that she had a brain surgery, and she has to kind of deal with life after that. And it is autobiographical because Sophie Kinsella also went through this. It's not like exactly what she went through. She did fictionalize it some. She has a whole author's note about it afterwards. I cried through most of it because it is really touching. I always feel really emotional when there is a mother with cancer, because it's really hard for me to think about the kids growing up without their mother, or the mother having to say goodbye to their kids. I'm also really sad. When I read the book, she was still alive, but since then I found out that she has actually passed away, and that is really sad. My next category is my favorite read aloud book, because I do read a lot of books with my kids. I count read aloud books as ones that we listen to as a family and ones that I read out loud to them personally. The top spot for this one was One Wrong Step by Jennifer A. Nielsen. It's a middle grade historical fiction about climbing Mount Everest during the time that World War II was just beginning. We actually listened to this one on a road trip. It was a basically 7-hour total road trip, so we were able to finish the book all in one day. We listened to it as a family, and everyone just got invested in it, including my husband, who on the way home he had to run into like a store real fast, and he was like, pause the book, because he didn't want to miss any of it. The kids all loved it. It was very educational. My favorite part, this is kind of silly, but one of my favorite parts of the book is that after I got home the next day, when we were doing the New York Times Mini, which we can't do anymore, but at the time we could do the New York Times Mini, and we were doing it together, my husband and I, and one of the questions was about Mount Everest, and we were able to answer it because of what we had learned in the book, and it made me so happy. Probably happier than I should have been about it. My next category is my favorite book by a favorite author. For this one, I picked Exiles by Jane Harper. Jane Harper writes character-driven, kind of slower, atmospheric thrillers that I just wouldn't think would be my kind of thing, but I absolutely love them. They're pretty much all take place in Australia. It's actually the third in a series, but I think you could read it without reading the other ones. I did read the first two first, but it had been so long, especially since I read the first book, because it was the first one that I read by Jane Harper, that I didn't really remember, but then it really was fine, because the reason it's like in the series is because it follows this certain character. The main character is named Aaron Falk, and he goes to visit some friends for like to see their new baby, and in the town that his friends live in, there was a disappearance a year ago, and so the whole town is trying to process that. And then there was also like some other mystery things that get brought in from the past, and he's trying to like help solve where the disappearance of this woman who just is gone. And there's also like kind of a romance in it, but not really a romance, but like a fling, I guess. But it's also very clean, and that's one of the things I appreciate about Jane Harper, is that her books tend to be clean enough that I'm comfortable reading them, while still having kind of that angst and heartache and things. She did a really good job of mixing current tension with past mysteries, and just really threading everything through so that you get pulled right through the book, even though there's not like a ton happening in the current day. I always have to do a bonus, because in my bullet journal I have a page for writing down favorite books throughout the year. I pick 3 from the month, and then from that is where I pick my 10 favorite from the year. But I don't include my rereads in that list, because if I'm rereading a book, it's probably because I really liked it, so of course it would be one of my favorite reads of the month. So at the end of the year, I always like to pick a bonus of a reread, and this year I decided to include 2. A reread with my kids that I read aloud with them, and just a reread, because I had 2 that I just was having a hard time picking between. So my favorite reread that I read aloud with my kids was Anne of Green Gables. They have never read it before. I obviously have, but they've never read it before, and they loved it, and I loved that they loved it. And then we watched the movie together, and they loved the movie, and they loved Gilbert, and my mom heart was so happy. One of the really fun things about kids growing up, even though it can be a little bittersweet, one of the really fun things is sharing things like this with them. Reading Anne with them and just seeing how much they loved Anne and her world, and then watching the movie with them, and everything was just a moment of the year for me. It was so fun to do that with them. And then my favorite reread of the year was These Happy Golden Years by Laura Ingalls Wilder. So during 2025, I did a reread of all of the Little House on the Prairie books, because I've read only a couple of them since I was a child, and I just couldn't really remember them very well. And so reading These Happy Golden Years as an adult was almost like reading it again for the first time. Reading it for the first time, not again. I just loved it. I loved all of the books. Rereading them was just a delight. I have a little printable for like tracking rereading them, and I'll share that down below. My favorite part of the book was just watching Laura and Almanzo's romance and courting, and it was just so sweet. Even though there were hard things that happened, I just loved learning about Laura's life. Also just the contrast between the family there that is, you know, the family that she goes to stay with while she's teaching, and they have such a hard time because the mom is just depressed and it's so sad. But then you see Caroline, who's gone through so much, and she just always keeps a good attitude about things. And we don't know what was going on with the other woman, you know, I don't want to judge her, but to me it's just such a lesson in no matter what happens, we get to choose how we view life and the attitude that we bring to it and what we're grateful for. And I love Caroline. I don't know if I can remember the exact phrase, but where she says, you know, there's no bad thing that can happen that something good doesn't come out of it, even if it's a small little good thing. That's not the exact quote, but that's the gist of it, and I absolutely love that. I actually should find the exact quote because it's one of my favorites. Those are my favorite books of 2025. It was such a good reading year. I would love to hear what some of your favorite reads were from last year. Share them in the comments below. I'll tell you if I've read them and loved them or didn't like them, or if I haven't read them, I'll add them to my list of books to read. And if you have read and liked or didn't like any of these books, I would also love to hear about that in the comments below, and we can chat about books. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.